Hey everyone, I am the Chosen One Legend here, as always joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Kai, also known as Fascurreyn.
And welcome back to the BunchaJokahs podcast, where we talk Nintendo news from the past month. And you know, Kai, we've been used to like the last several months being like, well, there's not really much news to talk about. We'll try and find some bits. We don't have that problem this month. We have the opposite. It's oh boy, there's a lot.
Yep,
It's
there is a lot. They really just decided to give it all at once, didn't they?
They did, yeah. They went here. Have a Switch 2 Direct. We knew that was coming, and have a regular Direct the week before, out of nowhere as well. It's insane. There's it's been a job trying to find out what we even talk about here, but we've broken it down to the highlights. I will of course mention that we did do reactions to both of those Directs. They're already on the channel, so if you want our sort of more raw thoughts on the individual games being shown and reactions to that, you can find it all there. Here we're going to more look at like the broad strokes to try and narrow this down so it's not a 3-hour discussion. But that being said, are you ready to get on with this guy?
Yeah, let's get moving because we've got a lot of stuff to cover.
Exactly. Let's start things off with the first segment of the podcast. Can't have a podcast without news, baby, where we go over the news highlights. And first things first, let's start with our Switch 1 Direct that we got, which was interesting. On a whole, I feel like it was a pretty decent Direct. It was nothing major, but you could kind of tell they were holding out on the big guns for the week after, right, Kai?
Yeah, it was kind of it was weird. Everything about it was weird, but it was alright. It was chill. It was like, yeah, it's the last Switch 1 set of games or whatever. I think, realistically, they just had some things where they were like, look, they probably had all of that content planned for the Switch 2 Direct, and then realised, we cannot go over 60 minutes. Let's put all of this into another one. Job done. Like, they just wanted to get it all out of the way, which is fine. I think it would have been good to have announced a little bit sooner, but it's fine.
Yeah, the timing is a bit odd, and to be honest, I think the bigger surprise for me is that all the games in it or the big games from Nintendo. We only really got 2 of them, and they're 2026 games, which is such a bizarre thing. Like, at this point, I'd imagine we're probably going to get like another Switch 2 Direct in the summer, right? Just after it's come out, July or something. We usually do. Like, these games feel like they could have just been in that. Why bother rushing out that Direct when the games aren't even coming out for over a year? It's kind of baffling, but at the same time, hey, we're getting a new Rhythm Heaven. I can't complain.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was some very good news in there like that, and Tomadachi, like, yeah, I don't know. It was just fun, bringing back some fun series. So really, it was quaint. It was good. It was enjoyable.
It's basically, yeah, giving us like the kind of smaller titles they tend to release at the end of a series life cycle. Like, I mean, there was a new Rhythm Heaven right at the end of the 3DS, right? Megamix, I think. So it's clearly something they tend to do, and it works for me because, again, these kind of games are ones that we're both interested in. I think we're both planning on picking up Rhythm Heaven and Tomodachi Life, probably. So
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, like, they just look good. There's not much to say about them other than they look like a return to form for the series that we'd expect, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, I just think they'll both be fun. Simple as that. Like the Rhythm Heaven one, I found it weird at first. Like the first thing they showed off, but I got used to it very quickly. And they always like to just do weird and wacky things, obviously. And then Tomodachi Life's the same. Like I'm very interested to see how it sort of expands. I would love if you could link it up with Miitopia, although I do doubt that. It's just great to see it back, though.
I at least hope it gets the Miitopia level, like face software, the custom characters, that kind of stuff they have going on there. That has to return, right? So,
yeah.
But no, it was good. It was, and the other thing I want to mention from it is we got the announcement of virtual game cards, which is like a whole system where you can transfer a game to someone on your family plan or between systems temporarily for them to essentially borrow it, like essentially letting you lend a game the same way you could a physical cartridge, which interesting. I don't see many times that I would use it, but there's potential there. Like as a feature, there's no negatives, I don't think.
No, I agree. I think it's just like it's good. And I remember during the directs when I was looking at it, I was like, this is weird because you are, this is a huge loss in a sense for Nintendo because if someone else wants to play these games, it can just be shared to them now. They don't actually have to pick it up. Especially on a digital front, because obviously if there's a cartridge, you could just put the cartridge in another console anyway. But yeah, for digital, like you can just transfer it and it's easy. It's like, that's a weird thing that they've made really, really convenient. But I'm not complaining, and I'm sure there's probably a reason for it that's going straight over my head. But hey, I mean, it works for us, and that's the bottom line, so happy days.
I think maybe one reasoning as well is people are like wondering, as we'll get to later, it's possible that there might be some games that don't work on the Switch 2 or something, Switch 1 games, and if you've transferred them over, you can like game share between your consoles, if it's your own ones and that makes that a little easier, I believe. Or people have suggested things like taking, some people have like a Switch Lite specifically for when they're traveling abroad, and you could just game share your Mario Kart to your Switch Lite rather than having to transfer it over and affect your profiles and whatnot. So there's uses, but nothing too major. I guess the only
it's chill. That's not much
technically
else for it.
Yeah, and technically something else they did announce is the Nintendo Today app with giving us new news, which all I want to specify from that is that they used it to announce that the Zelda live-action movie is coming out 26th of March 2027. We have a release date, it's 2 years off, and I'm just waiting for that casting video. We saw what happened with the Mario one. What are they doing here?
Yeah, that's the question. Like, having a release date's cool. It's happening. It's in progress, and that's always fun. I won't lie. So far with the live action, all the live action stuff, like, it just. Did you ever watch the old Link rap by Smosh?
I did, yes.
I just when I envision it, because I can't envision it really yet, because it's not happened. That's all I can think of, and I don't know. I'm really curious to see what that first trailer's like. Realistically, we won't get it for at least another year, but the casting is key, isn't it? Like you say, that will probably happen a lot sooner. And I do wonder who they're going to choose. I mean, I just hope it's not like the same big names, pretty much. I do want, I get it for voice acting. It's like, okay, maybe a little bit less consequential. But I really hope that they choose, actors that fit.
I like to think they will cast like more unknown. You never know. Maybe some side characters get bigger names, but especially because usually Link and Zelda are like around, it depends what version they go, but at the eldest they're like 20 odd, Given that, they're more likely to cast fresh, I would assume. I know there's like thing like they're gonna cast Tom Holland as Link, aren't they? And I hope not.
There is always that.
But it's the thing is, like you say, if it's releasing March 2027, it's got to be filming next year, and unlike animation, it's harder to like hide your live action cast because cast photos leak out and whatnot of the filming.
Yeah.
So they have to announce that relatively soon, I would figure, to get ahead of things. So yeah, I reckon by the end of this year we will be having at least some knowledge on the cast, and that's going to be interesting for sure. Hopefully,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I grew up on like the Smosh video, loads of like Zelda fan ones that half of them were awful, the other ones were middling, but the fact it's happening still feels insane to me. And after Mario movie, I at least trust them to like keep it loyal to the IP and generally authentic, even if regardless of the overall quality of the movie. I have mostly faith. So let's hope that pays off.
Yeah. Well, this is very on topic because the Minecraft movie is out around now, isn't it? Did it come out like a couple of days ago or something? And I will say, as much as Jack Black has been in everything seemingly lately, I can see him being the old man in Zelda, who gives you the sword. You know, it's dangerous to go alone, whatever.
Yeah,
So
no,
I can honestly see that happening. I don't know.
I hadn't thought of that, but you know what? That I, I wouldn't even be
I
mad
could
at
just
that one.
see it. Like he does some sort of jump into a pose. This is a goblin. Like I don't know. I can see something like that happening.
I
So
am
who
old
knows?
man. Yeah, it's.
Octorok. Like okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I
oh,
don't
he's,
know. We'll see.
oh, wait. No, they have him as is it Mushu? No, what's the bomb seller?
Morshu.
Morshu, yeah.
From
I can,
bombs. Okay, all right, Jack.
I can see it, but we'll find out. And in the meantime, we have the big boy. We have the Switch 2 reveal, which just happened the other day for us. We're coming right off it, and I guess to start with, just overall impressions of the Direct and the Switch 2. What are you thinking as a net?
This is something I mentioned in the reaction video, but I do want to reiterate it as my number one thought. This Direct was not for Nintendo fans necessarily. This was for people who... This is not for people who were always going to buy a Switch. This is for people who were unsure. And maybe are gamers of different consoles. That, I believe, was the sole point of this reveal. That was their priority, because if you're going to buy it either way, you don't really need to market it to those people as strongly.
True.
And my reason for thinking this is the sheer third-party support, which was my number one takeaway from it.
Oh yeah.
Was just like they're like, look, what did you complain about? The first thing that people did for the Switch really was that it's like lower quality, doesn't run as well, 720, 30 FPS, whatever. And they were immediately like, no, we've got like new gen specs. We are up to date on that. Also, we've got every single big game from the last 5 years on any console now on the Switch 2.
Yeah.
Just to say to people, look, you don't even need a PS5 because that's got no exclusives or anything special to it. What is Microsoft? I don't know. What's Xbox? It was just like, look, you can get everything on this. This is the everything console. You can play it in your house. You can play it out, and you can play every game now as well. It has everything. It even has those weird Steam games that are like 50p and don't work. So it just does everything, and I think it really was good for appealing to those people. In terms of first party stuff and maybe the stuff that we're looking for, maybe not as 10 out of 10, but like it was still pretty good.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my whole takeaway.
I agree. Like, I don't think the games lineup we saw was remarkable. Not compared to the Switch 1 presentation where we had Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey and Splatoon and ARMS and Xenoblade 2. We knew all of those were in the pipeline. And granted, I think there's still games we don't know about. There will be other games coming out this year and especially next year. So this isn't everything, just because it's what they've shown off so far. But in terms of like the sheer breadth of games, like you said, from third parties and the console itself, like in terms of sheer like power, they got the point across. 4K, 120 frames per second, like in handheld, like that is genuinely insane, and it's getting like all the people who get like excited for tech stuff are like freaking out about it. They're definitely getting that audience in with it, and it looks impressive. Like things look impressive, and I'm hyped. I mean, I'm picking it up day one, and I know you said the same. So
yeah, absolutely, we'll both be doing that so we can see what it's all about. I mean, we've both got like original release date switches.
Yeah. Exact same, yeah.
So it was sort of. I think we're due an upgrade, which is good. So yeah, it's just looking good overall. I was really happy with the spec stuff. I mean, I generally don't care about that stuff too much, but it's always nice. And I think all of the little improvements they're going to make to certain games is a big game changer as well. Just really good quality of life stuff.
Well, I guess let's talk about that first of all. Then maybe how sort of they're adjusting Switch 1 games is that certain games are getting paid upgrades, or potentially free with NSO in some cases, like Zelda and the two Zelda games, where this is like not only do they like full on like redo things to make them like 4K or better frame rate and all that business to make them run better, they have like new content such as new story content for Kirby, new mini games for Mario Party, and an entire notes app for Zelda, like a a little Siri for you to work with, including new dialogue. I don't know if you saw on the
Yeah, in Yakuza, was it?
Oh well, no, in Zelda.
Oh.
There's-
Oh, you mean the NAP? Wait. Oh no,
Well,
sorry.
it
I know
has-
what you're talking about now. Sorry, I was blanking. You
Yeah,
mean the memory
this
stuff,
wasn't-
right?
Yes, this wasn't in the
Yes.
direct, but if you watch the video afterwards, they show off like you can go to spots and have little voice-directed notes from Zelda and Rauru and whatnot, which I'm guessing they had them back, you know, for like the Age of Calamity Warriors game, so might as well. But still, like putting in these details for like a little bit of an extra price or on NSO, like that, I feel like that's the best way you can do it for those games to give them that upgrade. And I didn't think they'd have new like content with it. I thought it would just be the performance, but that's like a lovely bonus to have.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really nice addition. I mean, all the stuff there, even like the online integration of you can sort of get things from other people. Someone immediately pointed out a way you can break the game with that is that someone will have a construct that is just 100 diamonds taped together. And then someone can just scan that and use turn all of their zonite into diamonds, basically. If you need rupees or whatever other item you might need.
Oh yeah,
So
there's going to
I'm
be
ready for that
exploits.
to happen.
It's going to be fun. But yeah, that's sort of like the more deluxe way of doing it, and hopefully more games get this in the future. Like I would definitely be up for seeing something like, you know, it's hard to even say at this point, but you know, like a Xenoblade game getting this kind of content feature. But even if not like the new content version of things, the other version that was just on their website afterwards, wasn't in the direct once again, is that certain games get free updates that are just like patches to increase, up the frame rate potential, to increase the resolution, to some of them like integration with like mouse mode perhaps. Smaller things, not new content, but ways to like make the current content look better, such as Odyssey, Link's Awakening, which definitely needs it for the frame rate. And again, hopefully we see more of those. Those are the kind of ones I think would fit Xenoblade very well. So hopefully we get more of those revealed in the future. But this is a good foundation for not everything needs to be paid, just to like, this is just going to run a little better for you ultimately, right?
Yeah, it's just a little bit of quality of life, and that's always good. I think you need that with a console upgrade as a little perk.
Yeah. And it's also been confirmed that games will just naturally run better as well. So something like Age of Calamity, hypothetically, the original one, this is, you know, that game, the frame rate chugged. And, you know, it's not going to magically run at 60 frames per second on the Switch 2, but hypothetically, it should be able to reach its max frame rate all the time, which is 30, you know, on the Switch. It should be able to perform its best possible on the Switch 2 that it could on the Switch 1 without the hiccups. So all around, that'll be interesting to go back to try out some games again or on replays. But it seems like, whereas PlayStation, I feel like when they had like their launch games of games releasing on both platforms, and some of them were paid upgrades, some of them were free, some of them didn't work at all. Like, I thought the messaging was a bit mixed. Here, I think it's quite clear there are three tiers. You know, games that are unchanged, games that are run a little better, and games that have paid upgrades and new content to them. And I think that spread, like, good way of doing it, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the upgrades, like the natural upgrades, is probably due to the hardware, where they've said like, look, the fan is better now, which sounds like a very minor thing, but that's kind of the sign of your Switch dying, isn't it?
Mine is for sure.
It can really struggle, and I imagine that some games deliberately, you know, they obviously can't go too fast on the processing because the fan can't keep up. If the fan can keep up, there's probably just like one node you have to switch internally in the game, and suddenly it can go a lot better. So really, really good, just improvement to have. You know, it's really neat.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of neat refinements. One thing I have here is that screenshots, they're transferable from your Switch 1 to 2 for a start, which is nice, because I have far too many. But also, you'll now be able to send them to the app, to like your smartphone app, like you can with PlayStation, rather than having to do some awkward transfer or upload them to Twitter, which is no longer an option. You can now transfer your screenshots directly to your phone simply. Thank God.
Yeah, it's always convenient.
And I guess just to mention sort of like what we've got for our launch window, sort of. So we're starting off with launch day. The only real first party thing you've got is Mario Kart. Like that is the big seller for it, and we're not going to go into detail here, but it looks bloody fantastic. So
yeah, I'll say I watched the Treehouse, some of the Treehouse video they did for
Same.
it. I think the main bit I watched was kind of the free roam section, and that sort of thing. It just looks good. If I'm being brutally honest, I do think the game still looks pretty unpolished in places. There were many times where the hitboxes did not seem to work properly, like on random pieces of the environment and stuff. But that's easy fix stuff. And to be honest, it's probably there's a chance that that's deliberate, because it's like let's say, I think one part was it where they're in a cave and there's a little bit of diagonal scaffolding on the top corner, and I watched them go straight through it. And like, you know, sure, like maybe there should be a hitbox on that, but can you imagine just happening to hit that and then just stopping dead? I don't know. Maybe there's that reason for it.
Gotta keep in mind the balancing of a kart racer, I suppose. But
yeah, like you can't just add hard stops, but it looks good. I mean, it's very well animated, and I like all the new quirks that they're adding in.
Yeah, this isn't just Mario Kart 8, but new levels. You know, that was the booster pass course. This is like an entirely new beast. Like, the scope is insane. We're not going to get to it yet, but like you can see why this is the most expensive game at launch. And you can see why it's the launch title. This shows off immediately like what the Switch can do Switch 2 can do compared to the Switch 1. Like, this is the way to do it. Otherwise, it's a load of third-party ports, mostly at and other ports at launch. Cyberpunk is going to be there. Street Fighter. The only other original title is that little game development one where you can look at the insides of the Switch 2, which is paid, which is odd, but
yeah, we'll get to the prices. I will say that's one where I'm like, that should not be paid.
Yes, yeah, I agree. That's the only instance I think that's dumb, because it looks kind of cool. It's a good way to show the system to your new people, but they got greedy there. But anyway,
who's going to buy that? Realistically, who is going to buy that? It's not a game.
It's like, I think it's going to be cheap, like translating to like roughly like under a tenner. But even so,
I'll say if it's more expensive than Torna, then there will be things said.
That's for sure. But it's I guess then the next thing we have upcoming is Donkey Kong. The new it's basically our new 3D Mario is a 3D Donkey Kong. That's coming out in the month afterwards, and that's your sort of big first-party single-player game. Again, the scope looks insane. Just how much you can interact with the environment. I don't know how they pulled it off.
Yeah, no, it looks very interesting. That environment stuff is key, really. That's like, for me, the biggest change by far. Because, who knows what engine they had to use to make that work properly. But, it does seem like a Odyssey successor, in a sense. You know, it does seem to be a little bit of that running around and, it's a collectathon, in a sense.
I mean, people
being
have even...
brutally honest, it's not anywhere near what I would want the next 3D Mario to be. It's not really my... Donkey Kong's never been my style, you know, where it's all a bit more like sort of darker colours in a sense. And the best way to describe it is Donkey Kong and like the Banjo-Kazooie series fit into the same genre for me that just does not click stylistically. But I will probably get the game regardless because it is close enough to Mario Odyssey.
I mean, even down to things like I watched a bit of the Treehouse footage of it and some reactions to people who have played it. A few press were able to play get hands-on with the console, and they've like pointed out how things like the bananas you collect, you get single ones and bunches of free. It's just the moons from Odyssey, you know. There's like a shop you can use your coins to get costumes for or something. Again, it's very clearly Odyssey coded, and I definitely agree. I was a little bit disappointed by this, just in terms of I would have preferred Mario Odyssey 2 or new 3D Mario, but this does look good, and it's hard to deny that. It looks like this is something to keep an eye on. I'm probably going to get it at launch. Like, it just looks like a way to show off the console, and if we have to wait for another Mario, sure, but in the meantime, I'll take this.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, when we see a bit more gameplay. I watched a very brief bit of the treehouse when they showed it off. Where you can, like, hit, I can't remember what they're called, like, shape blocks or something, and whatever material you throw at it, it will turn into that material, sort of thing. And it's like, okay, that's neat. I miss cap throws already.
Who knows? Apparently, like, you can find Cranky Kong in there, and he, like, talks about Mario. So, who knows? Maybe Mario could show up. Maybe this is in the same world as Odyssey. That would be hype. But,
I think it'll all come down to Moonskip.
Yeah. The trauma, is it still there?
It is. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things we'll just have to wait and see how the game feels. Because again, from watching it, I was trying to figure out how Donkey Kong actually feels to move around, because they've really got that movement perfectly with Mario Odyssey. So hopefully, like, there's maybe if there's a demo, but just a bit more gameplay to see, like, does it feel good? Because that's ultimately what it comes down to for this kind of game. Yeah,
true. We'll definitely have to find out more on that one as it gets closer to release. And I guess we got lots more third-party stuff like Elden Ring and Final Fantasy VII Remake and whatnot coming out, which is cool. But the next big Nintendo thing is Age of Imprisonment, I think it is. The Hyrule Warriors game about the imprisoning war, which, again, not the game we wanted from them in this regards. I still am slightly salty that it's not Xenoblade Warriors, but hey, this is cool, and Tears of the Kingdom needed that, like, dive into its backstory. It was so cool conceptually, but it was lacking in the main game. So I will take this.
Yeah, it is exactly as you say. I think Xenoblade Warriors would have hit a lot harder, or even another, like, Nintendo series getting one. I don't know which. A third Zelda Warriors game. It's like, I mean, I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, it was not expected in the slightest. And it seems to be that, like, at least from what we saw, because all we saw was Zelda. What was it? Zelda, Minoru, Sonia. I think we saw Sonia and Rauru. Did we just see those four?
Yeah, no, we didn't see anything of Link, which makes sense because Link isn't meant to be here canonically, and apparently on the website it does call it a canon story. Whether or not that turns out to be true, we've been fooled before, but the fact they went out of their way to say that makes you wonder.
I mean, it's pretty clear, like, what the general premises of, it's back when Zelda was shot through time, and what did they get up to amidst all the other cutscenes we see. It's a neat idea. I like it. Again, my hot take on it is that I think this should be a half game, where it's got half the content of Age of Calamity and it's half the price, maybe. Just because it does. No, not every game needs to be massive and have loads and loads of things to do. And it feels like something that will work as a shorter story, but I could be off. I mean, again, it's almost assured that they're going to do something new and, like, interesting. I think it's almost certain that Link will show up at some point. They'll do the whole portal thing again.
Yeah, somehow.
It was like, he's back. The number one thing for me, actually, my question was, obviously they need more than the 4 playable characters, even if they bring Link in and all the modern day sages. It's like the roster for Age of Calamity ended up being like 20 characters or something. The 4 sages would need to be playable, like the old sages, aka the ones with no personality, who almost all had the same voices as just the champions, and all had masks, so they just weren't interesting in any sense whatsoever. They have to become real characters, pretty much. And obviously, if they do make them real characters, that'll be great because they sort of need to be. Hugest fumble of the century if they do just make them really boring still. I'm really curious on how they're going to do all that, because obviously the champions trumps them by a mile. Yeah,
we saw them in the trailer, didn't we, with their masks and that. But I hope it's like You know how, like, in Torna, you first see Adam with the cloak in the Xenoblade
Yes.
2 flashbacks.
It's exactly
then he takes
like
it
that,
off.
yes.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get that. But, time will tell. I think one thing I'm hyped for is, we're going to get playable Ganondorf, and that's going to be sick. So...
Yeah, that's true.
can
I
only
always
imagine.
like when games sort of do, there's a whole storyline from the villain's perspective, whether it's, the old Sonic or some of the Lego games have done it, bits like that, that's always fun.
Hyrule Warriors Original had that in its DLC. So
It did, yeah.
I think that's definitely plausible.
Cool.
But yeah, suffice to say, another game we're hyped for. That's probably the coolest thing for me. It's the biggest surprise from the Direct. Most other things were known quantity, like Prime 4, which isn't coming launch, by the way. That's still, we don't know when that's releasing, which is bizarre to me. I thought that was a lock, but we'll see. But I think that's that's pretty much everything except the price, And you said you had some hot takes on this, Kai, so I'm going to leave it to you. What are your thoughts on the pricing?
Well, let's get the facts in first. Let's get the factoids.
Yep. Okay,
place.
So in the UK, at least, the Switch is releasing for £395, or you can get it with Mario Kart digitally for £430. We have two SKUs of games. We have Mario Kart is £67 digital, 75 physical, and Donkey Kong is 59 digital, 67 physical, which I would assume, now we don't know for sure because we don't have an entire list of games yet, we don't know all the upcoming games, but I'm assuming Mario Kart World is like the premium games, like Breath of the Wild was on the Switch 1, where that was 60 instead of 50, and I think there are only 3 of those. I think it was just the 2 Zeldas and Smash, so Donkey Kong's probably your more common game price, I would assume. But we'll see, obviously. What do you think, Kai?
I mean, this is the thing, is do these people who are complaining about these prices, first of all, they're calling them $90 games. Is that, maybe that's accurate, I'm not sure on the conversion.
$90, I think, is the physical ones, but the most expensive ones. And I'm seeing a lot of misinformation of posts saying every Switch game is now $90. So it's well, only certain ones, and if you buy them physical, it's definitely been blown out of proportion and misinformation a lot.
Well, here's the thing. I wonder if the people who are the loudest about that, have they gone outside in the last 5 years? I don't seriously, go outside. Everything is a little bit more expensive. That's how inflation works.
Yeah.
It's this isn't complicated. You only have to be 12 to understand it. Things get more expensive over time. That's going to apply to this industry as well. It's going to apply to every industry. Seriously. And then it's look how much more expensive they are. And it's get over it. Everything is more expensive,
No, I agree with your hot take there, Kai. It's easy to see how it looks like a lot. You have Mario Kart 8 here for £50, and then you look at Mario Kart World and it's £75, and you look at it that way, you're like, holy shit. But when you think about it, it's most the big PlayStation games these days are £70, physical and digital. You don't get them cheaper digital.
Yep.
You want Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy Rebirth at retail price, at launch at the very least, it's £70, which, the main Switch games like Donkey Kong, which is still a huge scale game, it's a new Odyssey, that's cheaper than that, just even physical. Mario Kart's only slightly more than that physical, and whilst I think maybe it should have been 70 rather than 75, I think there's a little bit of greed going on here. It's no way near as bad as people are saying it is. We've seen it coming for years. It's fitting the trend. These games, the Switch 2, the tech we're seeing in it is easily getting comparable to the PS5. It's not on that level, but it's up there. So of course we're going to see price increases. It just makes sense. And whilst sure I'd like it to be cheaper, people are really way too salty about it.
A standard PS5 was £450.
Yeah,
for the console, and that was years ago.
It's
honestly, it's silly.
And Yeah, like I think most people are, or more people are sort of content with the Switch price itself, the Switch 2 price itself. It's more
Yeah.
what people expected. It's mostly the games, and I think, but it's like you said with like inflation being a thing. And look, I'm bad when it comes to like economics. I can't claim to know what I'm talking about, but like out of curiosity, I just thought I would check the difference between minimum wage in 2017 when £50 Switch games came out, and today when £70 Switch 2 games or £65 are coming out. Minimum wage back then here was £7.50. It's now
Yep.
it's now like £12 or something along those lines. It's nearly doubled. So when you think about that, keeping inflation in mind, and I don't know the maths here, I could be wrong, but I feel like a £50 Switch game back then was more expensive than the £70 Switch 2 game today. Like,
I think you would be right.
yeah, like it, and maybe it's a little different in America and whatnot. I don't know, that's specifically a UK thing, but when you take that into account, like how much more money I'm earning per pound now than I was per hour than I was back then, like I'm saving money comparatively. It's a big increase when you look at it on paper, but do the maths, it's not that bad. In fact, it's relatively fine. But
Yeah, I mean, my biggest hot take with this, something that I've thought for years specifically, is I've always said certain games probably could stand to be more expensive, and similarly, other games could stand to be cheaper. The key one being game length, I guess, is probably the way to put it, and the amount of content you get in. Is some games are too expensive in the sense that there are some games that cost 60 quid. And realistically, there's only like 5 or 10 hours of content. As much as I do think Astro Bot is a very good one, that's the new one's still full price, isn't it?
yes,
And that's
maybe
not a particularly long game. I mean, obviously that maybe is a bit of a different case, but a lot of games do that, where you only get about 10 hours of content and they are full price. On the contrary, other games you can have up to 200 hours of content, maybe more. You're talking RPGs, roguelikes, sports games, I guess, anything with an online service. All of those are the same price. You can get over 200 hours of content easily out of a lot of those games. 60 quid for 200 hours is an insanely good ratio that could stand to be different. Like,
yeah.
That's like 2 dinners, or two nice dinners, to be clear. Like, if you're going for multiple people, let's be clear. But the difference in the amount of value you're getting out of it, I think the amount of content in the game is quite big, and so I've always sort of said, like, hey, if a game that gets me 200 hours of enjoyment goes up by 10 quid, that's not going to make a difference to me. I can earn that in less than an hour. For 200 hours. I just think it's one of those things where people are complaining as a very vocal minority, and probably are people who aren't going to buy any of these games anyway, even if they were cheaper. They probably still wouldn't be buying the console. It's probably just a lot of people who want to sort of stir up a fuss without actually caring about the product.
It's kind of insane when you think about it that, like, Xenoblade 3 wasn't £60. It easily could have been. Like, you could argue it should have been. And on the Switch 2, it probably still won't be a premium game because it wasn't before. It'll probably still be the £66 physical, £58 digital. It'll probably still be that, which is not bad. And that's keeping in mind things like, that's the suggested retail price. You book it on Amazon, it's going to be at least £10 cheaper, even at launch. Like, Nintendo games have historically been, you can get them cheaper at launch. By about a tenner, depending on where you shop. And that would probably still be the same here as well. So, I think
exactly.
It's still. Am I happy I have to spend up to 20 quid more per game? No, I like saving money. I'm a cheapskate. I'll admit it.
That's exactly it. We're not happy that it's more expensive. We're just saying, like, it does make sense.
Exactly.
We never want to pay more money, but it's how it goes.
Yeah, it's how it works, and it's fine. It's especially at the end of the day, like, whilst it's good things to be affordable, it's video games are a luxury. It's not as important as like keeping food down costs, and their business out to make money, not serve you stuff. So it's sure, like, it's fine, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see how many games get the premium price. Maybe there'll be some where I think this game should be cheaper. Maybe there'll be some games that I don't think are worth getting the money they spend on. But as it is now, like, I'm fine with buying these as at the price they are without being miserable, you know.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's like, if it is too expensive, don't buy it. Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's it.
get something else that's cheaper. Steam has a lot of very good games for a lot cheaper prices.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, if it's really that bad, just go to Steam. Again, I'd wager
Wait
a
for
lot
sales.
of people complaining do just play games on Steam and
Oh,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
complain. So it's like, whatever, just for everyone out there, turn off the chat if you're watching anything on live YouTube. It's just never a good idea.
Oh yeah, it's always toxic, and it always has been. It doesn't matter if they could have like said, here, the Switch 2 costs £50 for everything here. The games we're giving you for free, and heck, we're going to buy you a car while you're at it. And the live chat would be complaining that it's not good enough. You know, it's
Oh my god, you got me a Prius. Oh, I don't want a Prius.
Exactly.
I'm not right. Yeah, honestly.
So,
Why have children, but you know, it's what it is.
But that being said, suffice to say, we're happy about the Switch 2. We're excited for it. And we're going to be talking about it more as more comes out. We'll be reacting to the Mario Kart Direct and whatnot. So, big hype. It's going to be nice to have things to talk about now. But
Yeah, I will say as well, like, we're not just
Yep.
defending it wholeheartedly.
No.
Like, we do have our own complaints. I mean, I think the big one for me is, like, again, the games they chose were just slightly off of what we wanted, and there is a lack of there is a lack of strong release date at the moment, like release day games. I think. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the Mario Kart
outside
and
of-
nothing else first party. So I think they do need that big RPG. So it's like, we're not just defending it for the sake of defending it. We just genuinely believe these things.
yeah, exactly. It's like I see enough that I'm content. I don't think it's like the craziest launch of all time, but it looks good, and that's good enough for me. My
The fact we have
expectations aren't
backlogs,
too high.
I think, as well.
Yeah.
It's probably a
And-
big thing.
And that's probably a perfect transition, Kai, to our next segment of the podcast, Games Time, baby, where we talk about the games we've been playing. And do you want to start us off, Kai? What's something you've been playing?
Let's talk about Brothership. Let's do that first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I finished that, and I finished that only maybe a couple of days after the last monthly podcast, so to be honest, like, the game has already gone from my head a lot. And I was talking about the game before, and I remember looking back on that and realising maybe I was a bit harsh on the game. You know, maybe I was a bit harsh, because I did play it through to the end ultimately. And I guess I can kind of look at it from a clean perspective now that it's been a while, it's done, and I've beaten the whole game. And overall, it's good. You know, it is a good RPG. It's enjoyable. It's fun. I think gameplay, I can cover gameplay first. It's very good gameplay-wise. It's very clean. The new bros attacks are fun. And actually, in terms of a difficulty perspective, this is more difficult than the other games by, I think, a decent margin. Enemies have a lot of attack variation in what they can do. And it's overall, it's just fun. You know, it's just fun gameplay. It's a good time. The way that you can do things. They did unfortunately get rid of the stat roulette, where you can like pick a stat to increase and you got to time it right, which is unfortunate.
That's a shame. Yeah.
But you do have other things in return. You get like, I think it's every like 7 levels you get a permanent buff to something. Like, it can be like jump attacks, or you get +1 in your POW every attack, every level up compared to normal and stuff like that. So, you know, gameplay's just all really good. I think there was a lack of boss fights across the whole game. I think the number of boss fights is single digits. Really, there's probably only like 6 big boss fights in the game, you know, where it feels like it's full length, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But, you know, is what it is. The interesting one for me was the story, and that I was going through the game thinking, man, I don't care about this story much. Like, there's some neat ideas in here about the world being split apart and reuniting it, but ultimately a lot of the individual storylines were like, they weren't bad.
Sorry, Kai,
they were
did you
fine.
Did you just say the storyline of Xenoblade 3?
Did I? I don't
The
think I
world,
did.
the world being split apart and wanting to connect it,
Oh.
and it's like
Oh,
the
shut
reverse. It's
up.
reverse
Shut
Xenoblade.
up. It's actually very similar to Spirit Tracks in a lot of ways, the game, so it's fun. Um, yeah, or Phantom Hourglass, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I was going to a lot of these islands because every island has a little mini story, and every quarter of the game has its own thing, and it's like, it's fine, but
Yeah,
nothing special. It's really basic. It's like, oh, go to the tower and beat the boss, and that's basically the overarching story. It's really dull, and as I got through the game, I was kind of thinking, man, this story isn't as good as the other games. And then I stopped. I paused the game and I went, what was the story of the other Mario and Luigi games? And realised actually, I mean, they all have some story, obviously, but I realised for the first time, story has never been a strong point for these games. They always have very strong, like, characters. I'm mainly referring to Bowser's Inside Story here because that's one of my most played games.
yeah.
The characters are really strong, but ultimately the plot is just go to one area at a time and, like, that's it. It's still a little
Basically,
better here on the overarching, but
coming
it
to
didn't
the
have a lot of these little
realization
mini stories.
of nostalgia kicking in. Basically, is it that kind of
Mate,
like
I
when you were a kid,
guess.
you play them and the stories felt more bigger than they, and you look at it in hindsight, it's like that's actually pretty simple. Sort of one of
Yeah,
those.
and it was like, actually, I appreciate they've made the attempts here to make all these smaller new stories. And then you get to the end game, and I won't spoil it, but
Yeah.
the last 10% of the game has insanely interesting story. I don't think they did everything they possibly could with it. It wasn't perfectly done, but they set up some really, really interesting and cool stuff. Obviously, I showed a little bit of it on stream the other day.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool that they were going in that direction. And again, as I was going through it, I was going, this is cool. It could maybe be better, but this is cool. And then again, I stopped and thought, well, this is cooler than anything they've ever done in Mario and Luigi. What am I comparing it to? And I realised I think I was subconsciously comparing the game to Super Paper Mario, which is known for having a really, really, really good story.
Right. Yeah.
Especially nearer the end. And I realised, okay, maybe it's not as good as that. It's missing a little bit. But the fact that I'm even comparing it to a game with such a good story, I think is a good sign. Like, it's up there enough that I am comparing it to that. And on the grander scheme of stories, obviously, it's whatever. But as far as, like, Mario RPGs go, it's one of the better ones from that perspective. And I think it gets a lot of credit. It's just a shame that it's only the last 10% of the game that is good on that front. And the rest of the game is very dull.
Right.
So the game, the game has issues, it has pacing issues, it has story issues, but ultimately it is a fun game with fun things to do and fun gags and fun moves, and it's just fun. It's a good time. It's kind of like the Mario RPG remake, where it was like, it's a cool little thing. It's a cool little thing, and that's that. So, it was a good time. Simple as that, it was a good time.
Yeah, definitely one I'm interested in maybe trying someday. I mean, heck, if Game Share's a thing, Kai, maybe I can borrow your Mario.
Yeah, run it, go for it.
You never know. But I'm glad to hear it picked up in the end. That's sort of the general consensus I heard was it's a bit overly long. It meanders a bit too much, but when it's good, it's good. And hey, that's still ending on a positive is better than having a positive in the middle and ending on nothing. So
yeah, absolutely.
I guess for me, I played a much smaller game. I sort of randomly just saw it on sale and picked up Ghost Trick, the Switch remake. Which, oh man, this game is so like original Ace Attorney coded. Like everything about it, the music especially, but the vibe is, and it's by the creator of Ace Attorney, right? But it's very specifically like Ace Attorney 1 feeling, and I can't even pin it down exactly. But the sort of the atmosphere of it just gets that sort of vibe perfectly. So if you like enjoy the original Ace Attorney, you will probably love this game. It's got everything you'd expect from this team. It's got the music, that's great. It's got very funny character writing, a lot of personality to them, and over the top characters. I mean, the main girl, Lynn, she's just Maya, but with orange hair. I mean, she's basically like a cross between Maya and Athena, I suppose, in that regard.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing. She's funny. I'd say it's even funnier than Ace Attorney in terms of like there's more. It aims for comedy more than Ace Attorney does. Even there's a lot of. They do, yeah. There's a lot of smaller lines, especially optional ones you can go for that keep up little running jokes and that. And it has the good mystery element of it, you know. Watching things build up, trying to figure out who you are. Each chapter ends on some sort of big cliffhanger, like an oh shit moment. You know, like an episode of a TV show or whatever. It all fits together really nicely and just tells a good, compelling mystery story ultimately. That is, again, very Ace Attorney in the way the puzzle pieces combine. And as for the gameplay, it's like, quite simply, there's no game like it out there. It's very unique. The whole idea where basically you are a ghost who you can move between different objects and perform tricks of them, where you're an umbrella, you can open it, whatever, to I guess adjust the environment, to manipulate the environment and prevent murders from happening and move around and stuff. It's very creative, very simple, but also not in the way that it's boring. It sort of gets that balance right between it's very intuitive, but you also do have to think about it. You can't just mash and get through it. So it sort of gets that balance quite right. And it's, if you fail, there's no consequences, which is nice. Very replayable in that way and not too much to manage. And it's also, to be frank, like it's basically a visual novel as well. It's mostly dialogue, or at least a large part dialogue. But that's not a bad thing because, like I said, it's all funny. And yeah, it's just I can see why this is a beloved classic. You know, I kind of hope that they make a future one someday because, like I said, there's no other game that does this gameplay system or anything like it. So I think it could easily be adapted into a new entry with a new set of characters or following these ones either way. I'm surprised they haven't, to be honest. But no, I'm very glad I experienced it. It was a great game all around.
Yeah, it's just neat, isn't it? Like, it really is one of a kind. It just does it. So it's in its own little world. Everything's really charming. It does a lot of very good things. It's a very good self-enclosed game.
Yeah, I think charming was the right word for it. It's just absolutely full of charm. And that's a good point you said. Like, it's self-enclosed. Although I wouldn't complain about more. I like that this just tells its own story and it's finished at the end. It's only like 10, 12 hours or something. It's a short game, but it doesn't feel like it needed to be longer. It used its time perfectly without overstaying its welcome. So yeah, just a generally charming game. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah, I think that's basically it. It just does its job. It's really, really good. End of, you know.
Yeah,
also,
absolutely.
Oh, what a brilliant dog. There's a brilliant dog in that game.
Oh, best boy. Yeah. we love Missile. We all do. But now, do we want to do our joint game, or do we want to? It's already 53 minutes somehow.
We could save it for another time.
Shall we push it back again?
Let's push it back a second time.
Let's push it back.
Time.
Like Astral Chain, it's getting pushed back. Here we go. But I guess that means this is it for the podcast then? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Pretty much. We wanted to keep it under an hour because we knew how much was going on. And look, I mean, one of the big things we did gloss over, I think, was Mario Kart World, but obviously we're going to be covering that later in the month when there's a direct there. So yeah, you know, we'll
that's the thing. We could like speculate on it here, but it'll all become invalid in like a week if we do. So there's not really too much point in it. It just looks great, right? So big and ambitious, and you can play as a cow. So that's enough. That's enough to sell me. But of course, you can find us here on BunchaJokahs on YouTube for videos and reactions, like the Mario Kart presentation upcoming, as well as our monthly directs and breakdowns on other games. We'll probably be doing more Switch 2 stuff, Xenoblade X, once we've both finished it, which a long way down. I'm working through it. Kai hasn't even started
it yet.
Yep. But somewhere down the line, we will be talking about X. And all of that here on the same place, BunchaJokahs. And where else can they find you at, Guy?
Twitch.tv/Fascurreyn. My next stream, as of when this goes out, will be near. I'll be starting that series. Oh
You won't
god.
want to miss it.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And speaking of games that break your mind in various ways, I am streaming Zero Escape currently on twitch.tv/TheChosenOneLegend. There'll be links to both of those in the description below, and a link to our friend Sam, who makes our thumbnails and all our graphic design work. And until then, we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and goodbye.
See ya.